don't book anything. My God. Anyways, I'm back. I'm joined by Michael from Star Wars,
Hello.
who has been on a podcasting kind of hiatus.
A little bit.
And I'm joined by a guy who's not been on a podcasting hiatus, even though one could argue he really deserves one. Morgan, Cobb's Corner.
What's going on, everybody? I guess, well, the episode, my most recent episode, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, episode 84, I did say that I kind of took a hiatus because I was overseas for a year and then I just got back to Connecticut a month ago. So just that transition. So, I mean, I'm back now, but I didn't post for like a month.
Well, even I took a little bit of a hiatus, kind of, but also not really, because my version of hiatus was like one episode a week, which is some of your normal outputs. So,
Yeah.
you know, my version of hiatus was much different than the rest of yours. However, we're back, and you know, it's funny because the last time that Michael and I were on the same podcast, I think, was when we were drafting. Now, at that point, Michael was the reigning champion. Now, if you want to take a look at the standings,
I already have.
I know you have. I'm saying for the audience, the people listening, if you want to take a look at the standings and you want to see how amazing Michael, the reigning champion, is doing in his title defense season, you can check it out through the link that will be in the bio or whatever.
It's almost like somebody like changed the rules to ensure that I would lose. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, this is the thing. Unlike last year, everything is available publicly, so everyone can look at it, which means there is proof that there is no rigging going on. Yes, some of the point stuff was changed from last year, but that was just to adapt it to what was apparently, you know, there were certain things which needed to be changed just because of the way points were distributed last year. We had to equal the weighting of the critic scores a little bit more to the box office, because otherwise it didn't matter, and we wanted critic scores to matter. Anyways, you could check out the scores, but let's talk. So obviously the person who's in first right now is not here. I was in first for a good 2 weeks, and then Inside Out came out. So that was
Crushed.
So, but I do want to. The first thing I want to ask is, Michael, if you're the reigning champion, you're definitely not going to be the champion again. How are you feeling?
You know, there were just a couple of these movies. I feel like if the reviews hit a little bit harder, it would have brought more people in. Like, there's a world where Furiosa was way bigger than it is. There's a world where Quiet Place Day One was way bigger. And they both got fine reviews, but it didn't have like the pool that the original movies did, number one, or just something like that didn't just spark the atmosphere like Barbie did last year for me, right? Like, it just didn't have that same attention on these things, which is unfortunate because I love both of those movies, to use them as an example. It's one of those things that's just hard to predict. And yeah, honestly, I'm looking at it. I don't feel great looking at my board to begin with, so I'm not going to pretend like I had an amazing team or I felt really confident. You know, it's just it's how the chips fell.
So you know what's interesting with the way that years have played out. See, I was talking to someone because obviously the box office kind of stunk this year, right? Until Inside Out 2, it was the worst it's been. Literally, if we exclude that 1 year of the pandemic where literally no movie theaters were open and no movies came out, it's been the worst in almost 2 decades. And that's embarrassing. And so I was talking to someone, you know, who does this as a job and knows a little bit more. And they're like, well, people had this kind of idea of how movies which had cult followings would kind of play in theaters when the new ones came out. And by the way, I guarantee you Gladiator 2 will have the same issue. But I think a lot of people overestimated movies like A Quiet Place, right? Day One. Or even Furiosa, where if you remember Mad Max, you know, the original, the first of this, it didn't do well audience-wise. It just became a cult classic and did really well in the awards and all that other stuff, right? And I think people were kind of expecting Furiosa for no reason to kind of have this massive jump. Even though again, we've had this terrible box office year. So, I think that was probably part of it.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree.
Now, Morgan, you've been doing pretty well. You've kind of just you're kind of sitting in third place right now, just kind of in the middle of the pack. You're still far out of 2 and 1, but you've got decent space between you and you're kind of stuck in the middle. How do you feel about how your movies have played out?
I mean, well, a lot of the movies, pretty much all. Okay, not all of them, but most of them I haven't seen in theaters because I was overseas for a year. My movies as they stand, I've got Bob Marley One Love, which is on Paramount Plus. I actually watched that movie on the plane ride back. 44% on Rotten Tomatoes. I heard it got mixed reviews, especially from. I actually have some friends and family who are actually originally from Jamaica, who are actually like from the island. So it got kind of mixed reviews. Biopics are always hit or miss. Monkey Man, I heard, was really good. It's got 89% on Rotten Tomatoes. I think that helped me a lot. The Fall Guy, I still haven't seen, but that's got 81%. Also, well, I would say The Fall Guy helped not just the movies, but one of my actors that I picked was Aaron Taylor Johnson. So he's got The Fall Guy and not even going to try to pretend like I know what's happening with Kraven the Hunter. And
it's coming out.
And if you see now, if might negatively affect me a bit because I'm just looking at the Google search page and it's got like a 6.5 out of 10 on IMDb, 49% on Rotten Tomatoes, 88% on Fandango. But like, I don't know. I feel like this movie, I saw the trailer for it. I just had a feeling it was not going to be like amazing. It's definitely not Ryan Reynolds' like biggest movie of the year by a long shot. I mean, Deadpool and Wolverine. I am hoping. You see, I am just like hoping and praying for like July 26th, and I have to see it in theaters. You see, like I've been back. Like the only movie I've seen in theaters since I've been back is Inside Out 2. I am really, really hoping that Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds just like pull something out of their ass for Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm already in third place. Like if I could at least just finish the year, if I could just bump you, Khalil, down to like third place, I'm chilling. It's like if I could just stay in second place because Harold and the Purple Crayon. You see, now you tricked me.
I did. I scammed you.
Really scammed me into picking Harold and the Purple Crayon so you could have Bad Boys Ride or Die, which I still haven't seen and I do want to see. Like I've actually heard it was making a lot of money in theaters. I know some folks who saw it. They said it was great. Harold and the Purple Crayon, I haven't heard anything about. That comes out August 2nd. Borderlands looks pretty promising. I'm not a huge video game movie person, but just looking at the cast and the director, Borderlands, there's something there with that. Nosferatu is, I guess, kind of my strategy is to always kind of have maybe one movie that's going to come out at the end of the year, maybe one movie, like the last movie, like the final pick, maybe be like a movie that I don't really care about. It's like, okay, Nosferatu, it comes out Christmas. It's like, also it's technically a remake, and it's a remake of like the silent film from the 20s. But it's got a promising cast though. Bill Skarsgård, Willem Dafoe, Lily Rose Depp, Nicholas Hoult. So not going to do a whole lot for me in my fantasy movie league 2024, but this might turn out to be pretty decent film. But so Aaron Taylor Johnson, I mean, he's got Fall Guy, Kraven the Hunter. For some reason, I thought he was in Mad Max Furiosa, but that was Anya Taylor-Joy, not Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah, same thing.
I made that mistake. Stephanie Shu. She was also in Fall Guy, apparently. Yeah, she was also in the Fall Guy, apparently. So yeah, I mean, I think last year, I can't remember. Did I finish in like last place last year, or was it fourth place? So.
Because I think you
Yeah.
got the first pick and you took Deadpool. Or you
Sounds
got,
right.
yeah, I think that's right.
Oh, right. Yeah. So,
Now,
I mean, I'm already in like third place, and we're halfway through the year. I've got at least like one blockbuster left. Again, Deadpool 3.
you do
Like
have
as
one.
long as Deadpool 3 does good, maybe I'll finish the year in third place, either second or third place. There's no way I can make it to, first place by the end of the year. As
Unless
long as I'm
Deadpool
not
makes like
bumped
$2
down.
billion.
Yes, as long as I'm not bumped down to fourth place.
So, you know what's interesting? My biggest movies haven't even come out yet.
Oh no.
My two biggest movies still, in my mind, were Moana 2 and Wicked. Neither of which have come out. By the way, first round pick was Wicked, if you guys don't remember. And they did just move Wicked to not be opening weekend competing with Moana 2. They both kind of target the same audience, but also different audiences at the same time. So, I mean, look, I feel very optimistic because I think one of those will be billion-dollar movies. I don't know which one it'll be. It could be both. It's not likely. But one of them will be. And that's all I need. Just one big movie.
Okay.
So now, if you could go back to the beginning and you could pick something, you'd change a thought process you had going into it, what would it be? Either of you.
I definitely would have picked Bad Boys Ride or Die.
Yeah, no one picked it. It's just left there. I don't know. It's very weird.
I mean, there's definitely a couple things. I think first and foremost, looking at this, like, there's a lot of things where I'm like, well, why didn't I pick that movie? It's like, well, I was last in the draft. That's why. Like, a lot of big ones got taken first. And I tried to pick up some, like, sleeper things. And I don't really regret it. Even, like, Joker 2, I still expect that to do big money for me. I think, surprisingly, is that Despicable Me 4 hasn't had a bigger start.
Critics hammered it.
That's also a big problem. I don't think actually that's probably my biggest mistake is not considering the critical aspect of the points and just looking at the money that it's going to make. In which case, Despicable Me is doing neither for me. But yeah, I guess that's really hurting me too. So.
And I think all of us, and again, tell me if I'm wrong. I don't think I am, but I think we all kind of expected the box office to be a little bit better because we saw the names of the movies and we're like, okay, people are gonna go watch these, right? But like even me and Michael, I'm curious about what it is, how it's been feeling for you. And again, literally, I have multiple podcasts where my thing is I talk about movies. So I'm like an above average movie watcher, right? I have not seen 90% of these movies. And it's not even because well, I've been a little bit more busy than usual this year generally, but also I don't care for some reason. And I can still talk about movies even without watching them because no one else watches them. So I don't feel any obligation to go out and watch a movie. I don't know if you felt that same way because like with superhero movies, like I had to watch them because I couldn't really talk about movies without watching them. But this year's kind of been like, yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of okay. I guess I'll go. I don't really want to go watch this. I don't need to watch this. No one else is. So it's not really part of you aren't contingent on, watching movies to talk about them. It's very weird.
Well, I don't know. I would disagree. And I think we have a big pushback from Marvel and DC, all superhero movies. There's not as much presence, which I think has led a lot of more room for franchises that we don't see from as much that I've been really excited to see return. I think I've mentioned A Quiet Place, love that franchise. Furiosa, Mad Max, love that franchise.
It was not great.
Sequels to Twister, nobody that's something that I feel like isn't even possible without some of these bigger studios stepping back a little bit. So
Gladiator 2.
Yeah, Gladiator 2, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I mean, these are all franchises that I love and adore that we just don't see from as much.
I heard Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes was average.
I liked it. I mean, if you like those movies, I think it probably will scratch that itch, but it's not the best movie in the world.
Well, I think part of the issue is that we don't really look, superhero movies were good when they were around. I think everyone just complained themselves into having no superhero movies, and now the only movie people want to watch is Deadpool because they realize how fun superhero movies are. And sometimes that's what it takes, right? You don't remember what what you had till it's gone.
And that's why Deadpool's going to do gangbusters for sure. There's no doubt.
It might make $2 billion. I'm not joking.
I would not be surprised.
I'm gonna see it twice.
I don't watch movies twice unless it's Star Wars.
Yeah, I'm not a big rewatcher. I saw Civil
But,
War twice this year. That was the one movie I saw twice.
Hmm.
Ew.
I think Endgame's the last movie I saw twice. No, John Wick 4.
The last movie I saw twice was probably The Rise of Skywalker. That was like
I only saw it that one time.
That was half a decade ago at this point, I think. Right?
That's crazy.
Thanks.
Ish.
Yeah. Did you guys know there's another Alien movie coming out?
That too.
Yeah.
That's another one. We don't get a lot of Alien movies, so when we do, like,
I feel like we get one every year.
I feel like it's like every 4 or 5.
The last one we got was in 2017.
Wow.
Alien
That feels like it
Covenant.
was last year. I don't know. It just movies are just kind of being, and even though movies I have seen haven't been great. Like I haven't walked out of a movie theater in a long time saying, "Oh my god, this was amazing." I don't know. I feel like just there's something broken with movies. Maybe it's my own patience for them. I don't know.
I don't know. There were quite a few movies this year that I've really either like, wow, that was really enjoyable. I had a really good time at the movies, or I was like, hey, this is now one of my favorite movies ever. I'm pulling up my top 10. I know you made a groan when I said Civil War. That's my favorite movie of the year, and I think it's a masterpiece. I love that movie.
I haven't seen it, but I'm gonna hate on it anyways. So.
Okay. Challengers,
It's
I love Challengers. Dune 2, I loved that. I mean,
Ew.
I feel like it's been a good year.
Why'd you like Dune 2?
I thought it was exciting. I thought it was dark. I thought, especially comparatively to the first one, I thought they went places with it, and I liked the tone, so it was enjoyable.
Oh, you didn't fall asleep?
No. Actually, I fell asleep in the first 5 minutes of Inside Out 2 and slept till the end.
What?
That was mostly because I was running on like 3 hours of sleep. It was nothing to do with the movie, but that is a thing that happened.
Inside Out was really good. I think I have to, once Inside Out 2 is on Disney Plus, I need to watch 1 and 2 back to back because I saw the first one in theaters back in 2015, and then here I am seeing the second one. So it's like I kind of remember stuff from the first one, and it's like I can sort of relate because it's like I was a teenager not that long ago, and like so I think that's what Disney's kind of pandering, but I feel like they're pandering to like the folks who were little kids when Inside Out came out, when like Moana came out. Notice how they waited, 8 years to do a sequel. I feel like they're trying to have these franchises come of age with the children, which I mean, who knows? Moana 2 might end up being a sleeper hit for Disney. I mean, Disney. I feel like they
not
need
sleeper hit. It's Moana. It's gonna if it's a hit, it's gonna be a massive hit because it's gonna always be one. You know what I think's happening? I think I'm secret or not secret. I think I'm more openly becoming a movie hater.
Wow, interesting.
Oh,
I don't know if you guys saw the signs.
he finally said it.
I feel like that's what's happening. I don't know. Like between my hatred for Barbie Oppenheimer.
I mean, we've all been thinking it, right, Michael? Back me up.
Yeah, I mean,
so yeah, you've all been thinking it. You finally said it out loud, folks. You heard it here first.
I know. Breaking news. I hate movies.
This just in.
I don't know. It's been very weird. A very weird year for movies. I think. Maybe I'm just resentful of people who like movies. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's not me hating the movies. It's just me hating the people who like them.
That's fair. I mean.
So anyway, speaking of things I actually watch, we're gonna pivot a little bit. We'll get back to this stuff later. Michael, have you been watching The Acolyte?
Of course I have.
I know. That's why I had to say, have you been? So what do you think of it?
I really enjoy it.
Now, are you offended by the fact that there's a black main character?
I'm offended there's a black main
Bruh.
character. There's also a lesbian couple. Yeah, it's all very triggering to me.
It's too woke,
Who
right?
the hell cares?
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't. No, I think
Yeah.
it's completely fine. I think it's not even. This is the thing with Disney, and I'll harp on this. I've probably said this on this very show before.
Probably.
They do the bare minimum for representation, and then everyone gets mad. It's like they didn't even do it. They just had like two people imply that they were together. Who cares?
Do you remember? Do you remember the big fuss they made with that traitor guy from Frozen?
I don't.
You know the guy I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The traitor guy Frozen. They said I think they said he's the first gay character in like openly gay character in Disney, like in animation. And he didn't do anything remotely like there was no like implication like outside of the articles that came out about it. There was no real follow through on that. It was really funny.
Yeah. That's how it goes. No, I like the Acolyte. I think that there's a couple. I'm a big defender of Star Wars, so like I really enjoy a lot of the action set pieces. I'm having a good time with that. I like some of the characters. Soul is incredible. I think the villain is a little cheesy. I think that some of the acting, especially in like episodes 2 and 3, are kind of bad. The writing for some of the stuff is weak, but you know what? It's Star Wars, and I'm having a good time. So.
See, I disagree on half of the things you just said because, like, I don't think the villain's bad at all. I think the villain actually is one of the most compelling villains we've gotten since in live action for a long time. I don't know who would be the since, but
I think the most recent episode did him some favors. But up until that point, he was very much like, like mustache twirly, talking about stealing candy from babies type, like. Just being evil for the sake of being evil, and like we didn't really understand his motive. And granted that I can change my opinion on that as we learn more about him, but at this point I don't really get why he's doing what he's doing, so that's a problem.
I think you're right, they're getting there, but I think like the helmet, the whole concept of the helmet and how it blocks out all the senses is a cool thing, right? Like I think those are all cool things, and I just had people yell at me, because I have friends who are quote unquote real Star Wars fans. So anyways, I have people just yell at me constantly about the Acolyte and how bad it is and how Disney's woke, and it really makes me mad. And then they're if they hear this, then they know who they are.
Well, the thing I liked about the Acolyte was the fact that it takes place, I want to say, a century before Revenge of the Sith, and pre Phantom Menace. That's a time period in Star Wars that I don't think we've seen in live action before.
Mm-hmm.
And they've never done like a live action series about this before, or even an animated series, if I'm not mistaken.
Nope.
But like sort of like this time before the Galactic Republic, before the Clone Wars, and we see the Jedi Temple. And one thing that I found on the internet, I think Eric Voss from New Rockstars, he said, when he was doing his breakdown of like, I think it was episode 3, the episode where there's like the flashback and we see Osha and May when they're little, and like trees, and how the symbolism of trees shows up not just for the Jedi, but also the Sith, and then also the witches, how like trees are symbolic in the Star Wars universe, and how really like the Sith, the origin of the Sith, it almost like dates back to like witchcraft. And so I feel like this show, we probably can't see it now, but this show is expanding the Star Wars universe in a way that we haven't seen it be expanded before, I think. I also thought with the last episode, I was wondering, it said unnamed planet. I'm wondering, is that the same planet that Luke was at in The Last Jedi with the original Jedi Temple? Like,
it looks
that's
similar.
what I thought.
It looks
like,
similar,
it looks similar,
but different enough for it to not be the same place.
That'd be cool if it was.
Right.
Like we were seeing more like beach line on this Acolyte planet, while Ahch-To from The Last Jedi was more like cliffy. There weren't really beaches on Ahch-To, and that was the main difference that I took away.
True.
To be fair, the planet is more than like that little island.
That's
Like,
true.
you know what I mean? Like, there could be other little islands.
It could be
on the same
Naboo,
planet.
like
Right.
That's true.
Right.
like it could be anywhere, just on a different side of the planet that we haven't seen, or I mean,
Well, it
Yeah,
can't be
'cause-
Hoth.
'cause-
I'm pretty confident in that one.
Yeah, okay.
Pretty sure. Yeah.
Missed a
Well,
part.
because even when I was watching The Force Awakens way back when, it's like friend of mine, he thought like, was Takodana, was that Naboo, or like Jakku, is that Tatooine? Like, and I had to explain like, no, this is a completely different planet, just with like a
They
similar
just all look the same.
terrain.
And
It's like, yeah, they just all look the same. It's like
sand is easy to do, it's cheap.
it's like there's only 7 stories that are told.
But they're telling a new story. They're not telling something about someone who's related to the Skywalkers, probably. Well, let's see. Oh, I can't say that yet.
Yeah,
But
be careful.
I still think that Chimera might be Darth Plagueis.
well, that's the thing.
Am I reaching? Am I reaching? I'm wondering.
I mean, I hope you're reaching because I would hate that personally,
Yeah, I
but I
don't.
don't know.
I don't know either. I would say no. I think that would be really crazy if that were the case.
Or a clone.
Also, I don't
some-
know
I don't know.
timeline
I'm trying
wise.
to- Always 2 there are, and
Yeah.
Master and an Apprentice, and it's like the timeline. It's like maybe not Darth Plagueis, but whoever his Sith Master was. Like, I'm just wondering.
I don't see. This is the thing, though. I still don't believe that this guy's a Sith because I think
Trying to
there
make
is a very specific, and I know this was like something controversial at the time, right? Was like, oh well, they said they're having Sith for millennia or whatever, right? And how are they Sith? I just think Sith is a title which certain people got, right? And I think not everyone has to be a Sith. Like there were even evil people with lightsabers who used the Force who weren't Sith in like the Clone Wars, right?
Yeah.
I
They've
think
always they've always found like the loophole to this, and whether that be like Inquisitors or whatever it is, they just come up with a different name for it to make sense. And that's whenever I've seen complaints about that, I'm like, let's just wait and see, because they actually haven't used the word Sith to describe this character. He has
we just all do.
Yeah, we just see a red lightsaber, that means Sith, and it's like, well, that hasn't always been the case almost a lot of the times, and like the on-screen stuff. So
Well, also again,
Like-
Sith is again a very relative term. Like it's like typically you can argue Sith can only be used to describe the master and the apprentice at the time, right? And then everybody outside that, because like I think the word they use is fallen Jedi or some version of that. I think that's what they use to describe him.
you also have to consider that Sith used to be a race as well that went extinct. So if the controversy with Ki-Adi-Mundi saying the Sith have been extinct for a generation, they could be talking about the race of the Sith as well, not necessarily like the teachings and following of the Sith practices. I think those are 2 very different things as well.
Yeah. Again, it's very weird because I don't but regardless, I don't really care because
No, I don't either.
if you, like, I know people will complain about this, but like if you're complaining about this at this point, just turn it off, go outside and I don't know, pick flowers or something, because at that point, like we can't really do anything. Like at that point, you're not gonna be happy with anything. Okay, yes, maybe they do end up making this a Sith. Again, who cares? But it's just annoying. And also, yeah, there's no problem with black people being Jedi. I've got to keep reminding people of this because it seems to be a weird sticking point.
It's like Chimera said in the last episode. It's semantics.
Yeah, exactly. Now,
Mace Windu's still alive.
Now, I really appreciate how The Acolyte affected the box office and this conversation we've had.
Well, actually, I do think that there has. I actually think that's a valid point right there, because I think that the Acolyte, like I think TV in general has had an effect on movies, like, and just streaming in general. Like I think that's the reason people don't want to go watch these things. I think Quiet Place either is going to DVD or is streaming at the end of the month. I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but
like
that's
crazy.
Also. I mean that's also why, like, when I saw all the great reviews that Bad Boys Ride or Die was getting, and that it was like making money at the box office, like for any movie to like actually make bank at the box office and actually, be getting all these, TV spots and like promotions, even while it's in theaters. I feel like we don't see that anymore. I feel like 10 years ago that was a thing. Like like a movie would come out and then like after a week, 2 weeks in the box office, be like, oh, this is the #1 movie in America. And it's like, where's that? Like 2014, like that was a thing. But like 2024, that's not a thing anymore. But seeing all these like ads and all these promotions for Bad Boys Ride or Die before it was in theaters, while it's still in theaters, and it's continuing to make money at the box office. I feel like that is an achievement in and of itself today, given the fact that we have so many streaming services. And it's just, I mean, I was literally like last week, like we like my family and I we went to go see Inside Out at one of the malls here in Connecticut that like 15 years ago was like popping. Okay, like the movie theater that was there that actually shut down and permanently closed during COVID, but then they recently reopened. I mean, it's just not the same. It's just not the same anymore. And I just feel like if a movie actually makes a profit at the box office in 2024, that is an achievement in and of itself, I think.
But that's such a low bar and such a sad state of affairs because, like, you think about it.
I mean, it's sad but true. Like,
Well, yeah, but like, I don't. It just feels so weird because 3-4 years ago, we literally had like multiple billion-dollar movies, and I think part of it, by the way, is the fact that movies are just too expensive now, right? They get that. By the way, my very like outside the fact that my two least favorite movies of last year. Okay, not least favorite movies, but like two of the movies I just don't like the hype that they got were Barbie Oppenheimer, right? And I made the case. I'm like, look, historically, two movies like that don't do well. Why? Because it's too expensive. People can't afford to go see two movies in the same month, right? Like, it's ridiculous. I think that those two movies did something very unique. I don't know how it happened. My analysis was very cogent and I think was still, accurate, despite the fact that it turned out not to be true. And I think that we're seeing this trend play out where it's like, yeah, two movies that people kind of want to see, either they won't go see them because they can't decide which one to see, or they'll go see one, right? Or again, they're not going to see both. And I think a lot of movies have undercut themselves. And I think then with TV and like, obviously there's that thing where they kick the ball around going on right now. And so I think that's also distracting people a little bit. I find that extremely boring, but
I just want to say, if you feel like like dark thoughts about the movie industry, take a look at the video game industry, because all the things that you're saying about the movie industry goes tenfold for what's going on with video games. And I don't know how
nobody plays video games anymore.
Well, because the demand is so high and nobody ever meets that demand and they all suck. Video games suck now. Because people want these like AAA, like super games, and they're impossible to put together. Like, every game has to be better than the last, and it's getting to the point where it's impossible. It costs way too much to make. Now video games cost more. Nobody wants to pay $70 for a video game. Like, it's getting to the point where like it's bottomed out. Video games are like gonna die at some point based on the demand of the people. And I can see a point where movies get there too. And I don't think we're there yet at all by any means, especially comparatively, but it's a sign of things to come, in my opinion.
So I don't think they'll die. I think but I think they will have to be reinvented somehow. Again, I don't know how it's going to happen, because the only thing you could do to probably reinvent it is to find a way to make them as good of quality as they used to be, but also like half the price to make them. And I don't know how
possible though.
Well, that's the problem. I don't know how you do that. And I think that's what the problem is, because I think video games, the cost to make them and the time and energy required to make video games have increased dramatically, right? Because again, you expect quality. Like, I remember with I don't know, did you guys play Spider-Man 2? Like, that was a game where I played it and I was like, I felt disappointed at the end, because I was like, this felt so small. Like, the first one was so big and so unique, and this one just felt like it was just not as big, even though it was really as big, right? And I think that's part of the problem, is that you can't cut the costs on these things because everything's just getting more expensive, like from a production standpoint.
Yeah. Well, I would argue maybe video games might even take longer to make than movies, in the sense that, like, I think the game Anthem from BioWare spent 5 years in beta testing. I mean, Grand Theft Auto 6 doesn't come out till next year. GTA 5 came out almost 12 years ago. Well, going to be 11 years ago, 2013. So video games, they just take forever to make. And then you got companies like Call of Duty putting out like a new game every single year, but it's like, how many games can you make about World War II? And I remember, it's like I remember 2016, like the Call of Duty Infinite Warfare trailer had 3 million dislikes. And then all of a sudden here comes Battlefield 1. It's like, okay, Battlefield, they hadn't put out a game in like what 3 or 4 years at that point. So you have like the Battlefield 1 versus Infinite Warfare, but then it's like when it's just so much like a game, like the game after game after game after game, and you don't take time to like actually step back and reevaluate and say, maybe we don't need to put out a game every year or every other year. Maybe we can take a step back, reevaluate some things. And I think it's the same thing with movies as well. Quality over quantity, I think is what it's going to have to come down to. And I think that's something that not just these gaming companies, not just these movie studios, but also us, gamers and those of us who watch films. That's something we're all going to have to get on the same page about, whether we like it or not, and have to learn to accept the fact that it's going to have to be quality over quantity. You're not going to get $1 billion box office banger every year. Like that's just not possible. There's too, the money, the time.
Well, you can get one every year, just not every month. I think that like it's frequency.
Right.
If we don't get $1 billion movie every year, then the movie industry is dead. At least one. Like again, we've had one this year. Like, and we might have one more. Like that there needs to be that. But I think the problem is I think you're kind of wrong on that. I don't think that we have to accept anything. I think what needs to happen is very simple. And I think this is part of the issue. The people who make this stuff, right? The producers of this stuff need to actually respond to what people want. Now, granted, I don't know what people want, but that's also not I'm not being paid a lot of money to figure that out. There are people who are being paid a lot of money to figure out what people want. And no, the answer, just so everyone who's thinking this, because I know there are people thinking this, don't, say this, it's not less black people or less, women in movies and TV. That's not what the market wants. What the market wants, though, we don't know what it is. Whatever it is, they need to respond to that, and they need to make things based on that. If the market wants these, these cheap kind of, but also like, somewhat good superhero movies, then that's what you should be giving us. Like that's the reality, right? Is the market needs to respond to what people want. Look, think about this. If you want a prime example, this is a video game example, but look at the Arkham games. Do you remember there was so much clamoring for some continuation of the Arkham story, right? Do you remember that after Arkham Knight? So everyone wanted it. How did they continue that story? Do you guys remember? They gave us that stupid Suicide Squad kills the Justice League game. I don't know. I haven't played that. I haven't bought it. Like that wasn't what I wanted when it came out.
To be honest, I thought.
I feel like I heard something about it.
But that's my point. Like everyone was clamoring, give us Arkham. I think we all would have loved a new Arkham game, right? That was not what we wanted. We didn't ask for that. And I think that's the problem is if you're not going to respond to what people want properly, then you shouldn't be doing then you're doing your job wrong. It's simple in my mind. I don't know. Do you guys think I'm completely wrong about that, or?
No, I agree. I completely agree. I mean, I'm not a gamer like at all. But I guess to your point, Khalil, like your example of like Arkham Knight and like Suicide Squad, I think that can also, of course, be applied to fandoms. And I'm sure we all remember the hashtag release a Snyder Cut, the hashtag Justice for Han for the Fast and Furious franchise. So there's been times where studios have responded to what fans have wanted, and that's going to have to continue, I think. So I'm saying clearly, like I agree with your point, but again, it's going to have to be, quality over quantity, and sure you can, the fans can clamor together and say, we want this, but you're going to have to accept the fact that it's not going to happen automatically.
But I think their business needs to be moved toward that. Like I remember last year, I think the two of the better movies last year were two rom-coms, which is very weird to have, right? Where two, I think of, I would say that when it comes, and I gauge this very very qualitatively on discussion I hear either online or from people who are typically they don't really talk about movies, and I don't think I've ever heard like discussion around two rom-coms being things that people talked about, right? The Jennifer Lawrence one and the Sydney
Oh, no.
Sweeney one.
Anyone but him?
Yeah, that was the Sydney Sweeney one. And then there was the one.
I feel like you're stretching with saying that these were incredibly popular movies, but
Yeah.
At the time when they came out, they had a lot more hype around them than I've seen many rom-coms have, right? But I think that those were cheap movies to make. I think those were movies which they did well relative to what they cost to make, and I think people enjoyed them. And I think you have like there used to be an oversaturation of them. Like 3 years ago, you had like one of those kind of movies coming out every week, right? Back when you had like Neighbors and Ted and all those other things, right? And now I think you get so few of them that, I think people are kind of saying, wait a second, this is the kind of stuff I want. And then you see this year, how have they responded to that? They haven't. So I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah, I think I watched Anyone But Him. I watched that on the flight back. Yeah, I watched that on the flight back. But No Hard Feelings. I still haven't seen that movie. I heard that it was almost like a 2005 raunchy comedy that was like put in a time capsule and then just like brought into 2023. That was one of the takes that I had heard about it on the non-spoiler takes that I'd heard about it online.
I went to a theater and paid to watch it. I never pay to watch rom-coms in theaters ever.
Yeah, I think I started watching it on streaming and I fell asleep or something. Like I never finished it, so it didn't hook me.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen any romantic comedies, and no, I feel like all the rom-coms I've watched on streaming because a lot of them are like old or whatnot. But I also feel like maybe that's I think that's a larger issue with the comedy sphere and how comedy has been dying a slow death of 1,000 paper cuts over the last like 5 years with hypersensitivity and like, don't say this, don't do that, don't make fun of this group of people or you'll be socially crucified. And so I think in that regard, like I get what you're saying about last year with No Hard Feelings and Anyone But Him. I saw one of those movies or Anyone But You, which I realize is I think an adaptation of the Shakespeare Much
Romeo
Ado About
Juliet.
Nothing, or no,
Romeo and Juliet.
Was it Romeo and Juliet? No,
I don't know.
No, or I'm confusing Anyone But You with She's the Man. But anyway, I think those two movies might have worked last year, but I'll say just like romantic comedies in general, maybe just aren't in high demand given to the woke mind, like ideology that we have in the zeitgeist. I think so, and I think that problem is bigger than just the movie industry. It's bigger than Hollywood. It's
So, have you guys watched The Boys, the new season?
I haven't seen the most recent episode, but I've seen basically everything else.
That's like the one show that everyone keeps. That's the one show everyone keeps talking about.
You haven't seen it?
I just haven't watched it. Like I don't know. It's just haven't.
Okay,
like
so
the last thing I saw from like Jensen Ackles was about like Supernatural season 16 or something. But like, yeah, I just haven't.
Okay, so Michael, with The Boys, and I haven't seen the most recent episode either, so we're on the same page here. But do you like? I feel like there's been a step back. I just don't find it as enjoyable as I did for the first few seasons. Like the first few seasons, I found to be amazing. I think top tier TV. I don't know. This season hasn't hit for me the same way. I feels like it's kind of running its course. It's kind of getting a little bit stale. I don't know if you feel that same way.
I know you're not alone in feeling that because that seems to be the online discussion at this point. Is this season?
And by the way, it's not because there's a black character who's very prominently featured. Again, I have to just keep reminding people any criticism I make is not because of the fact that there are people.
Well, you're not. I don't think you're alone in that, and I don't. I mean, I think first of all, I don't think that's ever been a complaint of The Boys, and I think it's something they've always stood hard on, is kind of being the more woke show to begin with. So,
well, mockery of the weird people, and then also being woke in that.
But I don't necessarily feel that. I don't. My thing is, The Boys is never my favorite show that's on. I prefer House of the Dragon. I'm enjoying The Bear more, right? Like it's never my favorite, so I always just enjoy it for what it is, and I never expect it to be the best show on my television at the time. So yeah, I don't really feel it because I'm just watching it for what it is. And like I see whenever somebody complains, I'm like, I get your complaints. I'm not gonna fight you on it. And I get it might be feel stale or whatever, but like I don't know, I just enjoy it for what it is. So I don't know that I necessarily feel it, but I get somebody that might feel like they're tired of the boys.
And again, I didn't, to be fair, I didn't watch Gen Z or whatever, Gen V or Gen whatever it was. I don't know if you watched it.
I didn't. So far, you didn't really need to watch it.
Apparently, there's been some things that have happened that are
Mm.
connected. Again, I am not the expert on that because I have not, again, seen it.
The main things are not connected. There's a couple small things, but no, I wouldn't
The
say
person
your
who would
enjoyment
have
would
seen it all and would know isn't here because he bailed last minute. So
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
we can't really ask him. But
no, yeah, I saw
yeah.
Gen V, and like there are a couple connections, but like the
Oh, you
biggest,
saw it.
yes, the
Okay.
biggest plot points in this series though have nothing to do with Gen V. It's a lot of flashback stuff with like I can't even remember all the characters' names. Frenchie and the other chick, and there's a lot of like character building and flashback stuff that like for me that doesn't work as well. It's not as exciting to me. But that has nothing to do with Gen V, you know. And that seems to be like some of the bigger points in the show. So I don't know.
Oh, by the way, sorry, one other thing. We're gonna go back to the Acolyte conversation. I need to ask you this because it's been bugging me immensely and no one has a good answer for me. So I don't know if you noticed this, but this is the only Star Wars thing where dead bodies don't just vanish. It's very strange. Have you guys noticed that?
I mean, that doesn't sound like a bad thing.
But normally you just dissolve into the Force. That's what happens when everyone dies in Star Wars for like ever.
No, that's not always true. I would say
It
it's mostly not
happens
true.
with
Actually.
some characters.
I think it's like the highest force beings will vanish. But if you think back to like Attack of the Clones and the arena, like those bodies weren't vanishing. Those were just like, you know, background Jedis that were dying and nothing happened to them because they weren't important. They weren't Yoda. They weren't Obi-Wan Kenobi. They weren't, you know.
That's true. I don't know. It just feels so weird to see bodies that don't just vanish. And like the fact that they're using the bodies as like, like such a big plot point in every time, like because they're killing Jedi. But
maybe that was just something that George Lucas just kind of put in. And I was actually just watching A New Hope last night. Like maybe that's just something that he did with Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan vanishes, Yoda vanishes.
Yoda vanishes.
Like, I feel like I feel like we only see that in the original trilogy. Those are the only two examples I can give off the top of my head. Because I feel like even Darth Vader was like cremated. Qui-Gon Jinn was cremated. So I feel like the whole vanishing thing is not really
to be fair
in Star Wars as much as I feel like it's not as big of a thing as you're making it clear.
To be fair, I think Darth Vader's a weird one, but because we don't know what really happens to I guess technically the Emperor doesn't die. Luke vanishes, obviously. Right? He does, right? I'm not wrong on that.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
I don't remember if Qui-Gon vanished, or if we don't really.
He does not vanish.
He was burned, right?
Yeah.
He's been. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It just feels very odd that there's so many of these Jedi who just these Jedi.
It's been explained. I don't know specifically, but I know this has been talked about, and I think it has to do with your connection to the Force. And I think it's just the people that are most connected to the Force. I think it's like the true, like Force beings that are able to vanish.
So did Jar Jar vanish?
Well, we've never seen Jar Jar's body, so we don't know.
Wait, I don't know if I made this up. Isn't there going to be like some special where Jar Jar's going to be a Sith?
It's a Lego thing, yeah.
Okay, are you guys going to... You guys are going to watch that, cover it, because you guys are now the Jar Jar people.
I guess we have to, yeah. I will say, though, like, all joking aside, the Lego specials are actually very good and very funny. I don't know if you ever watched...
I watch all of them.
Yeah, they're very good. I always enjoy them.
I remember there's the weirdest one, which I actually thought was cool, and I thought they'd actually bring it in, and they might, which is the multiverse one.
Yes, that's a good one.
That was a really good one, and I think I do truly like, as much as people hate the multiverse, again, I don't know why, but I would love them to bring that into Star Wars for real, because we've kind of seen it in parts already. We saw it in Rebels a little bit. We've seen kind of parts, and I don't understand why you couldn't have a multiverse in Star Wars, because I think, the Force could expand beyond reality. Like the Force is a very powerful thing. You're telling me the Force can't take you between realities?
I mean, I think you're right for sure.
True.
I think the coolest thing that the Lego specials have ever done is they confirmed that Finn is a Jedi in the holiday special. So, yeah, something to look out for there.
Again, it's Disney doing their bare minimum to like,
like, oh,
yeah,
y'all didn't we didn't do that, and we'll do it in the Lego special. Don't worry, guys.
Yeah, I think I have to, now that you mentioned that, Michael, I have to rewatch the Lego Star Wars holiday special, because I'm having slight Mandela effect. I can't remember if they confirmed that Finn was a Jedi or not, but I think one thing that that actually a relative of mine pointed out in Empire Strikes Back, the scene when Luke, where Luke I guess gets lost in the blizzard on Hoth, and then Han shows up, and then Han is able to turn on Luke's lightsaber and then slice open the tauntaun, and then Finn is able to like turn on the lightsaber in The Force Awakens. Anybody can use a lightsaber. Like, you don't have to be a Jedi. But like, now that they've confirmed that Finn is a Jedi, I'm like, oh, okay, now I actually have to go and now thank you, Michael, for giving me more and more things to watch. I'm already trying to get through all the Alien movies. I already had enough on my plate.
Yeah.
Well, Star Wars also has aliens. They're better aliens too.
I gotta stop doing all these guest appearances on podcasts.
Not mine. You better keep showing up.
But yeah, I definitely have to go and watch all the Lego Star Wars movies, because there was one, I forget what it's called, but it's where they go to like Dagobah, they end up on Tatooine, and then they find like, it's supposed to take place, I think, during the Clone Wars, but they find like the young Han Solo, and then something about like General Grievous, his joints like freeze, and then like one of the key lines, because like Count Dooku just like leaves, and then Grievous is like, but I thought we were buddies. And I feel like I
don't remember any.
I think I have it on DVD, but I've just said like scenes out of context just now. So like, I'm sure like if I had the movie in front of me, I would be able to. Right. Freemaker Adventures. I think it was one of the Freemaker Adventures.
Okay.
That was the TV show, right?
Yeah, but I think I had like two of them.
Yeah, that was a good TV show, by the way. Top tier. I don't know, like Star Wars, I just want them to start building out another like a few different like big storylines and build up to something. That's the thing I'm frustrated with Star Wars right now. They're kind of they have started to do it a little bit with the with the post the Thrawn stuff, but like maybe it's my psychotic brain, but I do kind of enjoy those little, at least a little build up to like some big culminating thing. Maybe it's the Marvelitis of it all, but I do, even if it's not like some expansive story, and I don't even think Marvel needs to do expansive stories anymore. I like the idea of just building up little stories of like 3 shows into one movie or something, and just seeing how maybe that helps even with the box office, right? Because I would argue these shows may not be profitable yet, but they are more accessible. People watch them more. Again, I would argue, I don't know, no one knows really the numbers on them, but I would be interested. Like, we're going to kind of get to see the first test with the whatever the Star Wars movie that they're going to do, which is going to call them one after the Mandalorian movie, I think culminates it all, right? And we're going to kind of see
Dave Filoni movie.
The Dave Filoni movie, yeah. And we're going to kind of get to see, okay, are like when all these characters come together, is that going to sell a movie, right? Because again, Ahsoka's never been, I guess she was in the Clone Wars movie, but has never really been in a movie. And so let's see what happens with that and how that works, right? Do these characters sell because of the TV shows, or are they going to kind of just fall apart, and will it not work? Because I think it will work. I think even Marvel could take hints from this with some of their, like, maybe they're, they build their Young Justice stuff up on TV and then do a movie, right? Or not Young Justice, Young Avengers. Yeah, and do it on a movie. I think that's actually better because I think that's where people are going to watch stuff, right?
Yeah.
Sure,
Sorry.
It did kind of fail with the Marvels, to be fair, but I would argue it would still work with non-racist audience. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think you might be onto something, Khalil. Yes, maybe we have the streaming shows sort of complement the movies. I mean, I had always said that the real world building and expansion, well, at least with Marvel, like the real world building and expansion was going to be on the big screen because the reality is not everybody has Disney Plus, and I think that's where franchises like this could go one of two ways. I think franchises like Marvel and maybe even to a certain extent Star Wars, you go to see a movie in theaters and it feels like homework because you have to, like, in order to understand Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, you have to first watch WandaVision and watch all these other movies that came before that, and like
But to be fair,
so
you don't really.
and then you can't just like sit and like watch a movie. So I feel like a lot of the world building is going to be on the big screen. I feel like streaming services, they can only do but so much. So yes, I kind of want to, like, I guess, give you the benefit of the doubt, like with the whole like having three separate shows, like whether if it's like Book of Boba Fett, Mandalorian, and Ahsoka, and then that all kind of connects into one big, on screen film. That's fine. We don't know for sure if that's going to work or not, but I just hope that Star Wars doesn't get to the point where we have all these shows on Disney Plus, which are great, and they've got their place. But then you try to do a big screen, you try to do a movie on the big screen, and then it's like you got to do all this homework. You got to watch like Mandalorian seasons 1, 2, and 3, and then Book of Boba Fett and Ahsoka and Andor and all this other stuff. That's my only concern, I guess. If that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that at the end of the day, the reality is, I think more people post COVID probably have streaming compared to watching movies. I think that's the reality. So I don't know if that's necessarily going to be as true as it used to be. But I don't know. Michael, what do you think? Do you think
About what?
about everything? Yeah.
Yes, about everything we've been talking about for the past like hour. Just go back to
You
the
are
beginning.
the Star Wars guy. I mean,
I guess so. I mean, I think that Star Wars has done a good thing as far as focusing on TV shows. I feel like that's the big thing that Marvel had issues with, releasing 3 movies a year as well as having TV shows alongside it. It created a lot of fatigue. I like that there aren't any movies right now. I actually think that's a good thing. And when the movies do come back, it's going to be big and we're going to be excited. And yeah, I mean, as much as I love Star Wars movies, like we need a break from it to feel special.
I have no issues with things not feeling special, to be honest. But you know what? I understand that you guys have some weird desire for things to feel special when I just like
it's not even just that, but it's like it's also on like there's that element, but there's also the fact that I feel like for the production value, for the people behind the scenes, it feels special for them to make it. I think they put a lot more into it. While, there's somebody that's working on the visual effects for Doctor Strange that immediately has to go into Falcon and the Winter Soldier, right? Like they're just constantly like just turning out stuff.
For the people, I think it's inhumane. It's terrible, the conditions that they're forced to work in. That is all true. As a consumer exclusively, without any of that stuff, I like.
But we are affected as consumers based on how they're being treated, and I feel like the break is good for the people behind the scenes and us indirectly because of that.
Well, thanks to people being criminals and also various other things, and also the audience being a little bit racist. The Marvel's is rethinking what they're doing, and so they've kind of forced themselves to take a step back. Now, hopefully, the racists don't win because I think the racist and sexist are, because the Marvels hit both those groups. Maybe that was too much too soon. Both people of different colors and also women. I don't know. Maybe that's too much for people. We got to get slowly into it.
It's
I
too
don't
much
know.
too
I love
fast.
the Marvels. Still one of the best movies that Marvel's ever made.
Yeah, it's like, you dip your toe back into this pool of like diversity, and then it's like you try to get back out. It's like, nope, nope, nope. You just in. It's just like John Wick, you know. You just go back in.
Yeah,
It's like, nope, nope, all or nothing.
the good thing is Marvel's gonna have a nice white male star movie with Deadpool and Wolverine. Nothing that could possibly make people feel sensitive. And that's I've been saying this for a long time, so I don't care saying this again here. But you know, the last Marvel movie had, it was three women. Two of them were women of color leading the movie. They're getting back to the safety of two white men who people have liked for a long time in two iconic roles. So we're not going to, hopefully that'll get people reinvigorated in Marvel, and then they can start slowly, adding some women and some people of color into movies, and maybe they'll be able to kind of sneak in another Black Panther type thing, with Blade, if that ever comes out. We'll start to get people
Oof.
okay again. I don't know. We're gonna have to reintroduce them. Like when you get into a pool you get out of a pool for a while, then you have to go back in the pool, and it's like, it's cold again, and you just got to get used to it. You got to go in slowly. So we'll get them in slowly, and we'll try the Marvels 3.
Okay.
The Marvels 3.
So
The
with that
Marvels.
being said, let's see. Last thoughts on the thing we came to talk about, fantasy movies or anything.
oh, right. Yeah. Then there's that.
That's the thing that people. I mean, I don't know if they came here to hear us talk about that, but either way, what are your thoughts on the scores, the way things have been going? What movies are you excited for?
I'm going to go ahead and take my L silently. I get it. I didn't have a great year this year, but I will be back to talk my shit next year, and we'll leave it at
And
that.
by the way, if I win, you're not taking that silently. I will.
I mean, you can take it as loudly as you want. I won't be listening, but
I'm going to drag you into all of it. Don't worry. Don't worry. If I win, you're not going to hear the end of it. Morgan?
Well, I think I'm doing better than I was last year. I definitely, I mean, it's not the end yet. I mean, Deadpool hasn't come out yet, so I'm really hoping. I'm really hopeful for like the second half of 2024. I think the first half wasn't that great. I might be like, I'm okay with finishing in either second or third place. Um, making progress. Again, we're gonna come back, like Michael said. We're gonna come back next year even harder. We're gonna do more analysis ahead of time. This has been so much fun. With you guys, with Lee, with Zach. I mean, you guys are like home team. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Khalil, for doing this with us.
And
also, before we leave, I just wanted to ask, like, so you guys recommend that I actually watch The Boys so I can actually engage in the conversation?
Yes.
All right, I'll try it. Because that's the one show that I've just like kept on like the back burner, just off the stove.
it's a good show.
Just I've been watching. I don't know if any of you have checked out Clipped on Hulu, but for me, it's been every Tuesday night. Clipped, Acolyte, but I will go and watch The Boys.
Perfect. And so, yeah, I mean, with that being said, one day I will, even if I have to hunt people down and drag them on, we will get everyone on. I mean, it might be hard to hunt down. I'm not going all the way to Australia, but I will go to the US to hunt people down. But we will get everyone together at some point. But until then, I'm just going to hope that Wicked 2 and Moana 2, or and Moana 2 all make a ton of money for me. And because I still am in striking distance of winning. And you guys better especially Michael, you better get started scouting for next year.
I guess so, yeah. I don't even need to pay attention to what's going on this year. I got a whole new year to worry about.
Start tanking and trying to get that draft pick.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe Morgan should start tanking too. Just start giving
movies away.
That's how you tank. You just give other people your movies and take bad movies.
So that's actually a good strategy, I think, actually.
I mean, that's what you did, Khalil, with Harold and the Purple Crayon. You really like gave me
I wasn't
that movie,
tanking.
and then
I just sold off my bad movie for a movie that no one had. Again, I don't know why no one took that. I kept asking people, "Hey, do you want to take this movie?" And people kept saying no. And so I was like, fine, I'll take it. So yeah. Anyways, with that being said, thank you all for watching. Somehow you survived listening to us talk for an hour. So if so, Michael, any do you want to tell us when you're gonna be podcasting again so everyone can know where to go?
Yeah, I would love to let you guys know that I have no idea when we're going to be back, but we
Okay.
do podcasts, Star Wars podcast. If you want to check out like old recaps of shows that have already happened, you're welcome
Or the
to do
Jar
that.
Jar stuff.
The Jar Jar, I think that's always a good one to revisit. It's timeless, I would say. It's probably our only timeless podcast if you want to check that out. So, yeah, where's Jar Jar at Star Wars? So, other than that, yeah, we'll be back eventually.
Okay, so you will be back eventually. We have no idea when that is.
No, there's no
Okay.
plans.
Morgan, what about you?
Cobb's Corner podcast, we're the one-stop shop for all things TV, film, and pop culture. Cobb, talk time with Morgan Cobbs. I don't know when that's coming back, but in the meantime, Cobb's Corner, we're back. We're doing the American Film Institute's top 100 greatest movies of all time. So go back and listen to the reviews that I've done for The Godfather, Citizen Kane. What's another one I've done? Raging Bull. Okay, go back and listen to those episodes that I did. The AFI Top 100 series. Go back to like the early episodes where I was reviewing like all the Marvel movies. So go back and listen to my Infinity Saga review series. That was like, dare I say, the golden age of Marvel. I don't know if that's gonna get like I don't know if like 10 years from now that line's not gonna age well or whatever. But go back and listen to like the early episodes. I'm pumping them out as quickly as I can. But Cobb's Corner, come by. Pour some coffee.
And I'm still waiting for my invite, by the way. But where everyone can check. So now, if you're watching this or listening, if you're watching this, then we have a podcast feed where there's even more stuff. And then we also have, for at least for now, Movie Madness with Khalil Jamal, which is another podcast feed, which also has me talking a lot. So you can also go with that one. It's getting renamed to something significantly better, where I will have a bunch of crazy takes. It'll be more. That's all interview based, pretty much, except when I can't get a guest, then it's not. You can also just subscribe on YouTube, CB Media Network, social media at @comicboys_. I am everywhere all the time. And again, if you're not sick of me at this point, then I think you need to get your brain checked. So yeah, with that being said, thank you all for watching. And
and listen to the Change Your Life series that I did last summer.
Might change your life. Who knows? Thank you guys for coming on. There's very hard feelings toward the people who didn't come on. I will
just kidding.
forgive them.
Just kidding. Zach and Lee, I am not a part of that. Okay, you guys are welcome at Cobb's Corner anytime. Okay, I am not a part of that. Okay. All right. Just
Zach and Lee might get a perma ban from me from coming on this podcast. I don't know.
Again,
I'm considering it. I'm looking at the bylaws.
Again, we can have our own separate fantasy movie draft 2025.
I'm just saying, I'm looking at the bylaws, see if I can ban them. Maybe I could take away some of Zach's points. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll do some shit.
Do that.
But anyways, with that being said, I don't want to keep anyone longer than they want to be here, because I'm sure you're all tired of me now. So bye.
See ya.
See you guys.